Therefore, the focus of today's discussion will be to understand from all of our co-panelists as well as add where possible what our experiences marketing our brands and businesses has been and how we see this landscape panning out over the next few years. So we'll start off with I think the first piece of our conversation for today, of our discussion for today is knowing your customer and going to your customer. How do companies do it? What are the means that companies are adopting today to do that? And I'd like to start with asking Ms. Gupta to speak about her experiences, especially coming from American Express. So over to you.
Thanks. So knowing your customer and going to your customer, why and how, right?
Absolutely.
So the why part and why do you need to know your customer? I think the big reveal is that if you don't know your customer, you don't really have a business. Because customer really sits at the heart of it all, right? So what does knowing your customer mean, right? Knowing your customer helps you get sales. Sales help you build trust with your customer. Building trust with your customer helps you build loyalty. And what does loyalty give you? Loyalty gives you more sales, right? And that's why you are in a business. And once you have trust and loyalty, you as a consumer would be referring that brand to your friend. If you've had a good experience with a brand, you'll go and refer that to a friend. And that'll give you more sales. So really knowing your customer is, like I said, heart of it all, making sure that you have a business to run, right? And how do companies do it? Various companies do it in various formats. And I would say traditionally, people like, let's say, Big Bazaar. And there are two ways really at a very high level, there are two ways of doing this. And one is starting with like a broad level of creating a broad level of awareness. And so if you look at it as a funnel, so it starts with a very broad level of awareness. Let's say Big Bazaar created a lot of awareness around, there is something called Big Bazaar that exists. And then taking that awareness into, some people got curious, and therefore they got engaged with a brand which is called Big Bazaar. And then the funnel became even smaller, and some of the people who got engaged actually completed a sale with Big Bazaar. So awareness, engagement, and sale. That's the example of a traditional firm like Big Bazaar, how they would work. But now let's flip the funnel. And what today's modern day companies are doing, and is very, very smart, and I greatly admire such companies, they are really looking at a solution. So how they can be creating a solution for an existing problem, right? Case in point being Uber. Uber is a solution which takes you from point A to point B. So it's solving your problem of easy commute, a clean commute, and having it in your hand through an app, right? So that they are solving a problem, so they already have a huge engagement level. And then with the engagement level that you already have, you have more and more sales coming in, you have high level of engagement, and you have high level of refer to friend. And then they will run their programs such as, and some of you may have used it, that forward this to a friend and get 100 rupees off on your next ride. So both of you benefit. And what the brand has done in a very, very simple way, it's kind of gotten another user to its user base, right? So I think that's how various companies I see have been functioning, and these are two very, very distinct examples of one company operating in a very traditional manner and the other one using, going the other route to say, this is how I'm going to tap my customer by solving a problem at hand.
Great. It's interesting that Ms. Gupta brought up network effects and talking about how one person uses a service and then another uses a service and it keeps adding on, right? I'd like to actually bring in Mudit at this point because their business Curify is actually a social network. And I'd like to have you add on to what Ms. Gupta just started off with.
Definitely. So basically you all know Facebook, everybody is on Facebook now. So what I am building currently for you, I'm building Facebook for doctors, but for education purpose. So if you start with the early days when Facebook started, you came because your friends were there. So you wanted to see their profiles. You wanted to add on to them, right? So as she mentioned about the funnel. Now let's consider what happens with Facebook and why people are engaged on it. I'm going to a very fundamental level here. So basically, for a company, let's say for Facebook, how this happens. First, there is acquisition of a customer. So for example, each one of you would log into or sign up to Facebook. That's the first part. Then comes activation. Now, for Facebook, it took about 2 to 3 years to understand what is activation. What do you mean by activation? This is the second step of the funnel. Activation means that you understand the product. So for them, the activation was if a user would do, or if a user has 10 friends by the end of 7 days, that is activation for them. So why did they write to this number? Because they saw that the users who did not do this, they were not engaged in a long term on Facebook. And they would sign up, but they would not use it. So that's what we call as activation. Anybody whose probability of being on the product or using the product in a long term could be 3 months, 6 months, let's take 6 months for now, is more than 60%. So that is how activation is defined. The third step, once a user is activated, he goes into retention. Retention is he uses the product on a sustainable basis. So for example, let's again come to Facebook. You signed up there, you made probably X number of friends in the first 7 days. I'm sure that most of us would have made more than 10 friends. And then we are still retained on the product. So that is retention. Now once we are happy with it, once retention happens, then comes the referral part of it. Referral is either you invite your friend or, analogous to Uber or any such transactional apps for that matter. But you have to use the product first, be happy with the product then, and then refer the product. After you refer the product comes the revenue part that products make. So essentially that's the funnel in a social network. How it happened with us was, and that's a real journey that we have been through. Initially when we started with acquiring doctors, we did not have any idea of what activation would it mean. But over a period of time, when we saw that who are using, we segmented the users in terms of who are using the product, who are not using the product, and then finally came to a number that if a doctor opens the app for 5 times in the first 7 days, his probability of being on the app was around 55%. So, and this number is very, very important to come to. We realized this after probably 6-7 months of learning that okay, we have to reach only this, because there are lots of variables in the business. Once you're into the business, you have to just narrow down the variables, focus on the constants. The variable for us was just I have to get a doctor or a user who registers to use or open the app 5 times in first 7 days. And post that, our retention numbers have gone brilliant. I mean, we have a retention ratio, so you can understand that we have a retention ratio of let's say 60%. 60% is very high in terms of social networks. 6-month retention ratio, we have 40%. 6-month retention means that let's say you signed up on any portal in January, and you see that in June, how many percentage of users who signed up in January still exist. So everybody would know of Snapchat, right? 6 months Snapchat retention today is 44%. So if 100 people registered in January in Snapchat, 44 will still be using the app in June. For us, the retention numbers today are 35%, which are actually comparable or on the same order of other social networks that have become famous. So I think on the funnel part, that is one, and on the virality part, I'll get into deeper details once the panel continues.
Right, and it's interesting that you brought up retention as a point in your conversation with Banu. Why don't you tell us, because you come from American Express and credit card businesses have traditionally been all about retention, right? Why don't you tell us in short, some of the experiences that you've had about how to retain customers and get them to transact with you more often, and what you've done to enable that as a brand in India.
Right. So I think most businesses look at, there are 2 ways of getting more business. You are in a business to make money, and there are 2 ways of doing it. One is acquiring. It's not actually mutually exclusive. Both have to be done simultaneously. So one is about acquiring new customers. So making sure that, we are getting more and more cards into the franchise. And the other way is that if you already have a card, how are we making sure that we are keeping you with us, but we are also making you spend more and more money with, let's say, an American Express card. So I think, and I'll just give you example of American Express because I think that's what my friend wants me to talk about here. So I think American Express has a USP which is called membership rewards, and I was fortunate enough to head that program for India for some time. So you have to create a unique hook with your customer, and this is true not just for Amex but for anyone. Any product that you have has to have something unique, what you stand for, right? So American Express, for example, stands for trust, security, and service. If you go out and talk to any of our card members, and if you ask them that, what does this brand stand out for? Or what is your one experience? And they will tell you that every time they've called the contact center, they've received exceptional service. So no wonder that American Express stands out as the winner of 8 to 10 service awards winner across the world, which is the J.D. Power Award for Service, right? So that talks a lot to the service as a core proposition to our brand. I think the other thing, and I was talking about the USP, right? So we have a program which is called Membership Rewards, that every time you swipe your card, you earn some points. And what does that points translate into? Because it's just a byproduct of swiping your card. However, when we do our surveys, we figure out that that's the biggest loyalty tool. And this is like a old example, but I still get goosebumps when I think about this. This was in the year 2008, and we had launched the membership rewards catalog. And Amex, of course, the other thing Amex stands for is everything that's premium, right? It's not for everyone. It's mass affluent to super premium. So we've done a catalog which is a very high quality table, coffee table kind of a booklet. And we put a black Sonata, which is that you can just take this away based on your points. And of course, at that time, Sonata was a big deal too, and Hyundai had just come up with that new car. And we said that take 1 million points and take this car home. And these are the points that you just earn when you swipe your card. I was on the floor the day that happened, and we said, and of course we've done the marketing blitz around it to say that at 10 o'clock, the first person who calls in gets to take away the car. Right. And we had people calling in before time and saying that, can I book it, can I reserve it, and things like that. And at sharp 10, and we had auditors on the floor because it had to be managed like that. And at sharp 10 o'clock, the phones just started buzzing, right? And that was the power of brand, how he'd been able to take, and of course the lucky guy won the car, but it wasn't even like a split of second when it was 10 o'clock and somebody took the car away, right? So it is about creating, one is having a true something solid, which is like a USP of your brand, and then being able to live up to the hype that your brand has created. It cannot be all hype. It has to be made good to the customer. And customers will swear by, and not everyone can become a franchise, part of the franchise, but those who do are truly the brand ambassadors for American Express. And that's the point I think he was also mentioning is, how do you retain your card members? I think and I mentioned too that, the metric of measuring how good your brand is when you're able to refer it to a friend. When I say that I had great experience with Amex, you should use it too. I think that's what brand is successful if it's able to do that. And I think that's what we strive for every day.
What I've noticed of late, of course, and that's how marketing has evolved in the last 5 to 7 years, of course, is that the customer's voice is very clearly audible to businesses and brands, right? And that's something that Bhanu just spoke about. Of course, Mudit's earlier points about how to build and grow your social networks. A lot of that engagement comes from hearing what your consumers want, and that's probably how you develop a business. Uber, interestingly, when Uber came into existence, there wasn't actually any need for an Uber-like service. It was a latent need that Uber uncovered by creating that. And that's actually a large part of what strategic marketing and strategic sales is all about, right? Being able to preempt what a customer wants without them realizing it. I'd actually like to bring in Nitin now to talk about some of strategic sales and strategic marketing and preempting what your consumer wants and getting them to act and actually converting that.
Thanks. So one of the things we hear across the industries and across the sectors is wherever they go and sell is, all of you are same. All of the service providers are same. So ultimately it comes down to price. And for some of the, the premium service providers in any sector, price is really not the game that they want to play. Yeah, I'm sure you guys cover that during your curriculum as well. So what's the solution then? The solution is differentiation. And there is a lot of concepts around that. There's a lot of practical stuff that happens across the industries and the service providers. But I think the rule of the game is insights-driven differentiation. Now let me tell you what that means. So what Mudit and Banu were also mentioning is that if you do not know your customer, you do not know what they like or dislike, you're just any player in the game. And if you're just any player in the game, then you are leaving your business and the growth and the winning to chance, which is usually not the best strategy. Yeah. So what do you do with that? You really, once you get a deal, once you crack a customer, you got to make them sticky. And we call it loyal customers, you call it sticky customer. But if you retain them, they're going to be keep on buying from you and giving you and making sure you have a business to run, and also refer as Banu and Mudit mentioned. But given all of these concepts, there is a huge world outside of this room which is changing very, very fast. So market is changing. And when I say market at a macro level, I'm sure you guys are fully well aware. The global economy, the Indian economy, the political scenario, everything is changing at very, very fast pace. The competition is changing. For instance, as he mentioned, there was no Uber and everything was still fine, right? People used to go from A to B somehow. But now Uber is there and they have really disrupted the whole model. So the competition is changing. Now can you guess who would have thought that All Out and Good Night, right, the mosquito repellents, who would think that an air conditioner could be a competition for a mosquito repellent? Nobody ever thought in their best of minds. But now LG, I'm sure you guys know, LG has come out with a few models where they have got mosquito repellents in built. And if you can get that, you don't need All Out and Good Night. So the competition is changing, the market is changing, and our clients are changing. For whatever service or product that you may have to offer, our clients are changing. And when all of this is happening, the business priorities and the enterprise level strategy is changing at a pace which is, if you don't keep your eyes and ears open, you're going to get left behind. And that's not really a good way to run a business and a marketing function specifically. So what that means is, marketing as a function is becoming more and more a business partner, a strategic partner to the business growth, and not just a side of the desk job or a side of the desk function where some emailers or some newspaper ads are done and nobody really cares about it, how it translates to business. But I think the engagement with the business, and I'm seeing it in my firm, and over the last 16, 17 years, I've seen it hugely changing, is that how does marketing partner with the business to first formulate that strategy, which is again based on the insights and through the voice of customer and through the surveys and through other insights that we carry from different channels that we have to tap into the market. So first, how do we formulate that strategy? So business strategy these days, let me tell you, is not just done by the business. Marketing is a part of that. And to be honest, HR is a part of that. To be honest, finance is a part of that. Because if you don't carry everybody along, and not everybody is rallying towards the same common goal, then you would have everybody chasing their own wish list and task list. And you're not really going to get the differentiation that you really want, and you will just be leaving everything to chance. So long story short, there are a lot of evolutionary stuff that is happening. The way things were done 50, 70, 80 years back will not be the way things are done next 2 years or 5 years. So stuff is changing, and the pace of the change is really catching up as well, right? So the acceleration of the change is huge.
Fantastic. Interestingly, as we talk about hearing our customers, getting insights from them, and being able to measure all of that, The most relevant point of this discussion would be digital and the role that digital is playing in one, being able to hear our customers, being able to get the insights that we need from them, two, being able to reach out to them and engage with them, and three, of course, being able to measure all of these actions against business returns. I'd actually like to bring in Stuti at this point to talk about her experience in the technology and marketing space, and how digital has played an important role in the evolution of marketing as she's seen it, given that she's been in the telecom industry for a long time now as well.
So thank you. So digital these days, it's playing a great role. It's playing a big role. So if I recall, doing marketing a few years back, I was doing all the campaigns, but I did not have any tool handy wherein, I can go ahead and measure the campaign effectiveness, or maybe I can go ahead and correct it. So this is where, digital has come in as a boon for all the marketeers. Now, if I'm doing any campaign, I can go ahead and see what's going right in the campaign, what's going wrong in the campaign. I can go ahead and correct that instantly, And a lot of organizations these days are talking about ROI. I'm sure Nitin would agree to it. Any marketing campaign that we guys are going and delivering, there has to be an ROI attached to it. What is the return on investment that we're getting on the campaign that we're doing? So digital again plays a major role. Why? A, because it is cost effective. B, because at one campaign it can reach to masses. C, if you're doing any kind of a campaign and you want course correction, instantly you can do the course correction. So yes, digital plays a very important role. Having said that, I have seen both sides of the business, B2B and B2C. While B2C, digital plays a very important role. You are selling something to the end customer and you can go ahead and bombard them with digital. But once you talk about B2B, B2B is something that you cannot initiate your discussion with digital. There has to be a one-on-one mapping. There has to be an experiential marketing, which is an amalgamation of both online and offline. So if I talk about B2B marketing, in B2B marketing, first you need to go ahead and you need to know what is the like and dislike of the customer. You need to go ahead and do the experiential marketing basis the like. So for example, I'll tell you, last week I was in Mumbai and last week I was in Pune doing one of the greatest symposiums which has ever happened in the industry. So if you Google and see CIO 100, it's one of the events which is supposed to be Oscars for CIOs across India. So there are some 100 top CIOs, those who are being awarded there. So what my task or our team or marketing team, so to say, task was, there are 100 CIOs, those who are coming, all top level CIOs, okay? We know 20% of them, rest 80% we don't know. So how do we engage with them, tap those customers, get the business out of it? It can only happen via experiential marketing. You cannot go ahead and post anything on the digital and a CIO who's a busy person, you would want him to go to your site and check it. Obviously not, he will not do it. So what we did was, we brought into a correct mix of online and offline. So what we did, we had set up an experiential zone. So how digital came into play was, I was given 9 top products that I had to promote. So Symposia Technologies, which is my company, is an ICT player, but a lot of people does not know that it's an ICT player. People know that IT company hai, deals into IT, but it is more than IT. So I had to, the task that I was given was that I need to make customer aware about those 9 products. So we smartly brought digital into play. We had made a tweet cafe of all the 9 products. And simultaneously, I had 15 other experiential zones which were there in that arena. So how do I make sure that customer footfall is happening at my place? So if you will, I'm sure my colleagues would agree here, if you will go to a typical experience zone, what would you get? A pen, a keychain, and that's about it. So we built the entire experience of a customer. So there were 9 different boxes that we created, a digital box, okay? And all related to our services. So for example, if you want to know about MPLS, so how we start the engagement is, so please go ahead, type hashtag MPLS and type hashtag Symposia Technologies. The minute you will write in your query, that box will open, voila, that is your goodie, take it and go back. So what I'm doing with this is, A, I'm promoting digital, B, I'm creating an engagement, C, I'm asking the customer to go ahead and like my tweet page where the entire audience is. So once I've built that connect, going forward, if I have to pitch something on digital, on his tweet, on his LinkedIn, I can go ahead and take it further from there. So that's how it happens in B2B.
Thank you. That was very interesting. Considering we're talking about digital and hearing our customers and being able to hear the customer's voice and preempt a lot of it as well. And of course, Shruti spoke about experiential marketing, trying to have a one-to-one connection. Interestingly, while this is a trend that's so far been prevalent in B2B environments, today a lot of consumer brands, by virtue of digital, by virtue of technology that is available to us, are able to establish a one-to-one connect with a customer that allows a far greater degree of personalization to the product or the service. And I'll start with now giving examples of some of what we are doing at Oyo. So Oyo started off with a very clear value proposition. How many of you have heard of Oyo, by the way?
All of them all.
Good to know, right? So because I went to a similar group about 6-8 months ago, not many people had, unfortunately. They were 18-year-olds entering college.
Clearly you were doing a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they were all 18-year-olds entering college. But what we are trying to do is, we're trying to leverage digital and we're trying to leverage a data science capability to try and build a more personalized experience for our customers to know that, say for instance, X person sitting in this room on their Oyo mobile app, our app is trying to build a profile for you, a user profile for you, which is capturing your digital footprint on the Oyo app and analyzing your behavior and trying to also analyze the behavior of other people around you and in the area that you're located in. And then we're doing two things, right? We're trying to personalize the experience for you by showing you those locations which you're likely to go to or travel to, or by showing you, those properties which people around you have been booking, right? Which obviously gets a whole social element involved, which gets a more personalized interaction going with the customer. And that's something that a lot of consumer-facing technology businesses are now doing. I like to bring up a campaign that those locations which you're likely to go to or travel to, or by showing you, those properties which people around you have been booking, right? Which obviously gets a whole social element involved, which gets a more personalized interaction going with the customer. And that's something that a lot of consumer-facing technology businesses are now doing. I like to bring up a campaign that I was blown away with. On the 5th of September, Uber had a Teachers' Day campaign saying, say thank you to your teachers. And interestingly, the degree of personalization in that campaign is something that I haven't seen a lot of businesses having done anywhere in the world. Where if you were sitting at IIM Calcutta, you actually got a notification saying thank you to Professor A, B, C, and D. We can never express our gratitude enough. If you were sitting at FMS Delhi, the thank you was for somebody else. So being able to drive that level of personalization has been enabled today thanks to digital, has been enabled thanks to data. And of course, that's where data plus digital are playing an important role in taking our businesses to the next stage of how to attract the consumer, how to retain the consumer, and how to basically monetize the relationship that you have with the consumer, which is the end game of our business. I'd actually like to get an interesting aspect on, very short but interesting aspect from Nitin on how digital is being leveraged by a real estate company like JLL. Because of course a lot of what we do is more intuitive, but with JLL and how they're using digital to create experiences.
Sure, thanks. So JLL, and I'm sure you guys would have done your research as well, is both in B2B and B2C, depending on the industry and the asset class that we address. But I'd like to share something very interesting with this group. So 15-20 years back, when a prospect would knock on your door, the salesperson, whoever was that first point of contact, would have to start from the education stage, right? This is what real estate is, this is what my services are, this is how things are done, this is the market, and all of those things. Actually, it really had to start from the education part of it. So if you talk about the funnel that Banu mentioned, awareness, engagement, and conversion. So awareness angle, so you have to really start from scratch. What research has shown us, these are global and country-specific researches as well, that 57% of the buying decision is already done before the first knock on your door. And that's a huge statistic. So 57%. So if you look at from scratch to point of conversion where the deal is signed, 57% of the journey is already concluded by that prospect in terms of knowledge, awareness, insights of all the service providers, of the competitors, of the market, the trends, the insights, they're already aware. And how are they aware? It's through these digital platforms, which makes this knowledge dissemination at a very, it really provides that scale and the reach. And you don't have, the good thing is you don't have to start from scratch, but that's actually the bad thing as well, because then you have to do something else. You have to deliver that higher order offering of sales to be able to carry that rest of the 43%. Yeah? And that is where marketing, so that's what is happening in that 57% is where marketing and all of us play a big role. To carry from 0 to 57, so are we in the right channel? Are we taking the right content to those channels? Are we in front of the right targeted segment? So all of those discussions and decisions have to be made by this marketing team. And digital plays a huge role in that. And when Stuti was mentioning about measuring the marketing initiatives, and I'm sure you guys have covered as well the marketing analytics part. Why would somebody need to measure marketing? Is because there is always a focus on ROI. There's always these golden handcuffs on number of resources, right? Both the headcount and the dollars that are spent on marketing spends. To be able to maximize that, the allocation of those resources, one has to measure how are you doing. If you don't measure, you can't improve, right? All of us know that. So therefore, analytics and digital playing together, and digital obviously helps in a lot of the analytics part. It's I would not say it's a nascent stage of the marketing analytics, but it is still far from maturing. There are some tools and technologies and platforms which are available to sort of measure some part of marketing initiatives, but really the end-to-end journey, there's still some thought leadership happening there. We don't have a consistent platform in the market globally which can measure from the first point of interaction to the end of conversion, which is the deal signing. There are some pieces in between. So digital and analytics, so data, digital analytics, and sometimes these nomenclatures are used interchangeably. But the point is, digital plays a huge role and marketing plays a huge role. First 57% of the buying decision, that's the bulk of it. Yeah.
Right. And we're talking about digital, and one of the more important pieces of digital today, which is relevant to all of us, is of course content and social. Social as a lever for digital outreach and engagement. I actually want to have Mudit talk a little bit about how, based on his experiences with Curify, how they are trying to reach out and engage their audience.
Sure. So, well, we started with something, and I'll take you through this journey so that you would understand what content plus social essentially means, and how does so it's basically, when you talk of content plus social, it's a community altogether. So how does a community grow together? That is the question essentially. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we started with, so I'll take you through this journey. We started with this product wherein a doctor would come and discuss cases. We started with this. So discuss cases with his peer doctors. That's it. That was the product. When we started, we used to see that, okay, in the first 3-4 months, we had around 3,000, 4,000 doctors. Now, we were expecting doctors to put in cases. That was not happening. Trust me, that was not happening. So we were only on that. So the content plus social piece was not coming, and we thought that, okay, the product is bad or the marketing is bad, but it was a very fundamental issue that how does a community grow? Now, if you think of that ways, suppose. So I'm again going back to the to Facebook so that you understand that. So you have a class, and you know only them in your entire universe of world. And then you are the first one to join Facebook. What is in it for you to do something there? I mean, right? You have this chicken and egg problem. Do you have 100 users? Do you have 1,000 users? Do you have 10,000 users before which everybody would post something so that everybody engages, right? So we had the same problem, 3,000, 4,000 doctors, and nobody was engaging to that level. Now the problem that we faced, and we thought that how does a community grow is, first step should be, whenever you get a user on any platform, there has to be a single user value. So what I'm saying is, so Facebook started with very closed group networks. So they started with Harvard University network. Why? They started with that because whenever one user joined, he could see the directory of all the profiles of every other user. So there was a single user value. Even if there was no feed, think of it, Facebook had no feed then. Then also it was a very engaging product. The reason being, there was this value of, they can actually view profiles, that's it. So what I'm saying is, the first step of community building is getting a single user value, which we did not crack then. But then after 4-5 months, we started with medical news. We did not focus on cases, we started with medical news. Why? Because even if a single user downloads the app, he has something to use it. Otherwise, the challenge comes is when one will post, others will see. When will one post is the challenge. So if you are community dependent from the very first, it's a challenge. So now, and then we grew to 50,000 in some 6-7 months. And then we relaunched discussion of cases. When we relaunched discussion of cases, we saw that this is a phenomenal engagement in discussion of cases. Why? Because there will always be a ratio of, let's say, 80-20. 80% of consumers on any platform will be only consumers, 20% will be creators, content creators, could either post, could either comment. Facebook metric is quite similar, 75-25. I mean, you would not see many of them posting. There would be mostly users just scrolling through the feeds. So what I'm coming to is the fundamentals of community building and content plus social is, first you have to figure out a single user value. Till the time you don't have a mass, that mass will not be, so you won't have a benchmark for that mass. You have to have a gut feel that okay, this is the right time to launch it. As soon as you have a single user value well established and a good mass, you feel that okay, now I can launch a multi-user value, which is content plus social. So what I'm saying is, if you are thinking of a social product in future, or for any business for that matter, you have to have an initial mass for which you already have a single user value sorted. Then launch a total combined product which has multi-user value, and after all this establishes. So again, coming back to Facebook, when all the users came, then they started with putting in businesses inside the feed. So now you would see sponsored ads, right? So once the understanding of the users is to a level that they understand that okay, these are my friends, this is my community all together, then you can bring multifaceted industry together. So now this is how Curify has also evolved, surprisingly. We did not think of it then, but we think of it now that it has actually evolved the way other social networks evolved. So we feel that every content plus social network would essentially boil down to the same fundamentals, which is single user value, multi-user value, and then once multi-user value is established, you have a community, then the outside industry facets would come in, and then you will streamline the whole industry together.
And it's interesting that you brought out the whole element of multi-user value being the focal point for a social platform, right? It's interesting because a lot of consumer brands have now started looking at marketing the same way. Say it can't just be a single user value that you are communicating to a customer. I'll give some very simple examples, right? Oyo started off as a standardized budget accommodation provider. That's it. People needed to come to the Oyo platform to book a hotel. Today, Oyo is a lot more than that. We are taking a very category focused view to our customers across different segments, across different use cases. Today, Oyo's view is how do we engage that user who is going to be traveling on a holiday to Goa or Manali or Shimla with Oyo and get them to book on Oyo. How do we engage that user who is traveling for work to Bombay and wants to stay at a 4-star or a 5-star hotel and comes to the Oyo platform to book their stay? How do we engage with the user? And I'll obviously point out that Mudit has been one of our first patrons. How do we engage with a user who is shifting to a new city, needs to find a place to live in, but doesn't want to get in the hassle of taking a house on rent? And that's where Oyo Studio Stays, which is a category that focuses on long stays, came in. And Mudit is actually, I think, customer number 4 or 5 of Oyo Studio Stays. He's been living in a Studio Stays property in Gurgaon for the last almost a year now. And the whole idea is to say, you create a community of people, you engage with them, and that's where you're looking at multiple user values that you're trying to engage with customers on. Nike is another consumer brand that comes to my mind that's done that. And a lot of fitness and apparel companies are doing that now. Nike has a Nike Run Club, which I'm a part of, where people just get together and on organized running events that Nike organizes, and they're building a community of runners that is, the focal point of which is Nike as a brand, right? And another brand that obviously done this, and we don't need, there are no doubts about it, is say American Express. American Express, when they launched their Platinum card service, there were multiple value propositions that they were communicating. So when I got my American Express Platinum card, proud of being an American Express Platinum card holder.
That's the power of community. You feel proud to be a part of that community.
Yeah, and I think for me the value proposition was, okay, Amex is giving me a Indigo voucher. Amex is also giving me a Taj Hotel voucher, and Amex is giving me access to a certain number of restaurants across India where I'm getting the discount. Amex is also giving me access to the airport lounges at some of the more prominent airports across the country, I think. And those were propositions beyond just American Express's proposition of being a credit card, where you're saying that if you don't have liquidity, or if you want to manage your liquidity better, use American Express. So today, I, for example, from personal experience, I don't actually spend cash for every spend that I have to make. I actually use my card, my credit card. I rack up membership reward points on them, and then I pay off my card bill using cash. Right? That's a smart way to sort of create more value. And to be able to do that, to be able to engage with customers and build a community that is strong enough where you are able to get a strong group of patrons backing you is really something that even established consumer brands are finding it difficult to focus on. But the good thing is digital communities, measurability of outcomes with the kind of spend and the effort that you're putting in is of course making all of this 360. So I think the takeaway from whatever we had to share with you really, and we'd obviously want to throw ourselves open to questions from all of you after this. But the takeaway from all of this is marketing may have appeared to be a silo or support function to the business to say marketing is about outreach, a brand ambassador hire kar liya, you do X number of outdoor campaigns, you obviously figure out how to sell your product better. But today marketing is a lot more than just that. It's 360, digital and offline, content and social, personalization and the role that data is playing in this personalization, and then of course building a strong community around the brand is really what marketing is all about. And as all of you gear up to get out into the workforce in the next few months to maybe a year, I'm sure a lot of you are considering marketing roles and being involved in sort of that function of the business. Keep this in mind, that marketing is not for people who want to essentially be out there just communicating the brand. Marketing is also a lot of data, it's a lot of measurability, and I think it's one of the core drivers of business today. Right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone. It's been fantastic sharing our views with all of you.